Check, check, test, test, audio check, check, check.
finish.
Roll call.
A salute.
Oh, because of the salute. I guess most salute is this way, but.
Yeah, but you don't do it if you don't know what's going on. You have men in the military, you don't salute. And actually, in the military, they don't put their hand over their heart.
So I motion that we move to commence the public meeting session at this time, 7:34 p.m. on Tuesday, September 27th, 2022.
No.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please. Board Secretary Shower.
Ms. Burge?
Women initiate about 75%.
Mr. Carlson?
And there are multiple reasons for that.
Ms. Franco Harmon?
Present.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Specht?
Here.
Ms. Spina?
Here.
Mr. Todd?
Here.
And Ms. Gonzalez?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Outstanding, thank you. Everyone, please rise for the flag salute. Please rise for the flag salute at this time. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you so much. On behalf of all the Board of Education members, Superintendent McLaughlin and her cabinet, we welcome all of you to our Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 public meeting session. The Montgomery Township Public School District is a public education institution that historically and currently operates with integrity and excellence. We will continue to do so. As a community, we will be respectful and polite, even in disagreement. We will value all of your perspectives, even in disagreement. Our curriculum and lessons rely on state standards and legislation, as well as fact and research. We are committed to implementing a high-quality, developmentally appropriate, equitable education for all our students so they receive, as inspired by a Monty for Justice student, a complete education. In the event a community member's behavior and/or rhetoric is vulgar, offensive, profane, or consists of name-calling, the board and/or chair, which is the president, will immediately interrupt by announcing a point of order. In the event the noise level prevents the board from hearing the proceedings, a personal privilege will be assessed. Should any audience member's conduct continue to be disruptive, preventing the board from facilitating the procedures of the public meeting, we will immediately recess, resulting in the district's Director of Security to enforce our public meeting conduct rules. If the disruptive behavior persists, the individual or individuals may be removed from the public meeting and/or the board chair or president will adjourn the meeting. So at this time, we're at the point of our agenda where we will hear our student representative report delivered by Montgomery High School senior Ryan Walls. Thank you, Ryan.
And welcome, Ryan. Hi, I'm Ryan Walls. I'm the new representative of Montgomery High School, and I think the school year is going really well so far. I think the coffee has been a big hit. It's gone like halfway through the day. I think that it's going as well as the school year can go when it first starts. Yeah.
It's Wawa coffee, by the way, that's why.
There you go, Wawa. It's very popular among our
Carry classes.
Oh, they're good.
Okay, great. So now Superintendent McLaughlin, your report and presentations at this time, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The school year has been off to a great start. There's an excitement and energy through all of the buildings. We kicked off our back-to-school nights the last 2 weeks. Orchard Hill and Village Elementary School are completed. LMS this week, UMS and the high school upcoming. We have a few presentations tonight, but first I want to highlight a few of our new academic offerings we have at the high school. Creating new pathways and opportunities for our students has been ongoing. This year we have expanded our programming to include, well, bring back, I should say, the Creative Writing Seminar 1 and 2. Those are semester courses. The History Department has a new course, Power, Inequity, and the Human Experience, and the World Language Department now offers The Conquest of Language and Power. It's a course that will fulfill the world language requirement.
This is TV.
For career electives,
That's
we're happy
TV,
to
or is that
implement
YouTube?
the Tomorrow's
What?
Teacher
YouTube.
Program, which
TV.
is a
What
two-part
about TV?
elective available to juniors and seniors
Channel
designed for
27.
those who want to go into the field of education. We are in year 3 of our implementation of the Science Department. They've been thriving with their offerings of microelectronics, organic chemistry honors, biotechnology, weather and meteorology,
Getting report.
anatomy and physiology, and astronomy. We continue to explore areas of interest to students to provide them with the experiences that will support their decisions post-high school. Stay tuned for more additions next year. As we continue to spread the word about full-day kindergarten, I know there are many quick questions, and we are here to answer them. There will be a Board of Education Town Hall meeting on October 10th at the Orchard Hill Gymnasium with a tour of the Early Childhood Center to view the remodeled preschool classroom, which is part of the question that will be asked of voters on November 8th. I would like to clarify some information on full-day kindergarten, as there may be some information out there on social media sites that is not correct. Montgomery Township School District has never had a full-day kindergarten. The township had previously operated, the township, not the school district, the K Connection program in the building on the Orchard Hill Elementary School property. This program provided families with a tuition-based supplemental half-day program to the district's half-day program. When the township announced it was no longer able to offer K Connection, the district was provided the space and additional classrooms to plan for full-day kindergarten. The Board of Ed and district staff work collaboratively together to identify the resources needed for the full-day kindergarten to offer it to the community. The cost for teachers, support staff, transportation, and maintenance work was all identified. With a 2% cap on the operating budget, it was quickly determined that the funding would require the community's approval via a question on the voting ballot. All the funding was included in this year's budget presentation held in March of 2022. The staffing will require a permanent addition to the operating budget, while the maintenance piece is a one-time cost. Please visit the district website for additional information, and please contact me if you have any questions.
Superintendent Walden, did you want to mention to the public that it is one question? There's an A. and
Yes,
a
it is
section.
one question. The A part is the ongoing increase to the budget, which is for staffing resource, and the B part is for the one-time cost for the facility maintenance part.
Right, so the public will be voting once.
Correct. Okay, aligned with that, I have a quick presentation on the update of our different schools' enrollment. Okay, I went back 3 years to show everyone what our enrollment looks like in the different buildings. Okay.
Do you want to click? Go ahead.
Can I,
Yeah, yeah.
can you go to present mode? Slideshow, up on the top? One more. Okay, this is for the high school. You take a look at that. I'll post this on the website as well for you to look at. But as you can see, so the change from the 21-22 to this school year as of September 15th. Now remember, when we send our information to the state, it's from the October 15th snapshot, which hasn't happened yet. This is a September 15th snapshot, so people can still move in and out. So that might change again next time. So we have an additional 43 students at the high school this year. from last year. At upper middle school, we have 57 less students than last year. Lower, we're up 11. Village, we're down 27. And Orchard, we're down 9. As you can see, there's a lot going on at Orchard. We have a 3-year-old half-day program, a 3-year-old full-day program, a 4-year-old half-day program, a 4-year-old full-day program, kindergarten AM, kindergarten PM, kindergarten that is full-day for students with disabilities, first grade and second grade. Out of district, this year we have 33 students. So total in district. So in our buildings, we are down 39 kids. Out of district, we are down 4 kids. And so total students, we are down 43 students. I thought I had a both tech slide, but we have 5 students that go to Somerset County Vocational Technical High School as well. Okay, that's the enrollment report. Now I'm going to share out our student safety data system. So each year we have to, it used to be called the Violence and Vandalism Report. It is all of the incidents that have occurred within each of the schools for the entire year. So at Montgomery High School, there were 30 total incidents, and the category with the most number of incidents was under substances. At LMS, there was 25 completed incidents, and the highest number was the alleged HIVs at 13. At the upper middle school, there were 19 incidents, and most of them fell under other category, which includes anything outside of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, or an HIV that a student would be removed from school for. At Orchard, we had 5 incidents, and they were mostly HIV related, and at Village Elementary School, we had 8, again, mostly HIV related. So that's our student safety data system that gets reported to the state. And now I'm going to introduce our Director of Equity, Data, and Accountability, Ms. Stacy Young, who's going to present on HIV trainings and programs. HIV IT. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Stacey Young, Director of Equity, Data, and Accountability, and also the District Anti-Bullying Coordinator. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Tonight I'm here to share out per state mandate on our harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or HIP, investigations, trainings, and programs, or ITP, for period 2, which is as outlined by the state January 2022 to June 2022. So the latter half of the previous school year is what gets reported out the subsequent fall. Accidentally turn it off.
It's okay.
It's moving on Alicia's computer.
Same.
We apologize for the technical difficulty. Just bear with us, please. Thanks, Jenny.
Okay. So in this presentation, I'll be covering the statutory definition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. I'll be sharing out some of our stats on investigations, trainings, and programs, our finalized self-assessment grades, and of course, who can report and how to report. Beginning with the definition, according to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, what exactly constitutes hit? It can be a gesture, a written, verbal, or physical act, or electronic communication. It can be a single incident or a series of incidents that's reasonably perceived as being motivated by an actual or perceived characteristic such as the following: race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, mental, physical, or sensory disability, or any other distinguishing characteristic. In addition to this, for it to constitute HIB, it needs to take place on school property, at a school-sponsored function, on a school bus, or off school grounds, and it needs to substantially disrupt or interfere with the orderly operations of the school or the rights of other students. And the rights of the alleged victims are included in that. In addition to that, a reasonable person should know under the circumstances that the act or acts will have the effect of at least one of the following: physically or emotionally harming a student or damaging the student's property, or placing a student in reasonable fear of physical or emotional harm, or has the effect of insulting or demeaning any student or group of students, or creates a hostile educational environment for the student. And so it's important as a community that we're always revisiting this definition, as it does often vary greatly from our colloquial use of the word bullying. Our district is required to have anti-bullying specialists, which you can see listed there on the right-hand side of the screen. You may recognize some of these names as our school counselors. Shout out to them for doing a fantastic job carrying the responsibilities of being a counselor in addition to an anti-bullying specialist. Our ABSs, or anti-bullying specialists, are responsible for conducting investigations, for chairing their building school safety and climate teams, and implementing trainings and programs. They receive mandated training in HIB law and protocols and conducting interviews and investigations at minimum twice a year. And we're also required to have an anti-bullying coordinator, which is the role that I'm filling currently. And the anti-bullying coordinator, or the ABS, collaborates with the school ABSs, the Board of Education, the superintendent, to prevent, identify, and respond to HIB in the district. The ABC is also required to provide HIB data to the New Jersey Department of Ed according to their expectations and their guidelines, and is also responsible for meeting twice annually with the anti-bullying specialists to discuss how we can strengthen our procedures and our practices and our policy. Getting into some data. So you can see here, we're again looking at period 2, which is January to June 2022. And you can see here a breakdown of each of our school buildings. All the way to the left there in the center of it are the number of reported or alleged incidents of HIB. So we're looking at 36 across the district, across that 6-month period of time. And then all the way to the right are the number of affirmed or founded HIBs. So we're looking at 15 that were affirmed or founded out of the 36 alleged. Our trainings during this period of time, trainings are staff-facing work, are listed here, again, a breakdown by building. And there were a total of 19 opportunities for staff to partake in learning about harassment, intimidation, and bullying in that period of time. Listed here are some examples of the trainings that we participated in as staff. I do want to highlight the top 2. We did have anti-bullying Bill of Rights training with Board Attorney Stephen Fogarty, in addition to the Somerset County Superintendents Association attorneys. And what I love about training by attorneys is that they are always right on top of current case law they're able to offer us just the most up-to-date information on HIB. Our programs during that time period, and programs are student-facing work, are listed here again by building on the left-hand side, and number of opportunities for learning on the right, for a total of 33 learning opportunities in that time period. Listed here are some examples of the programs that our students participated in by building. And here I just want to take a moment to shout out our peer leaders at the high school who visit our younger learners at Orchard and Village. And it's always really fantastic to have our students working with other students and talking to them about making good choices and being an upstander and being a student, a person of character. So thank you to our peer leaders. Our self-assessment report is a report card that's filled out annually by our school safety team in compliance with the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, and it's then graded by the state of New Jersey. Our current HIB grade report is available right on the district's main page. And if you'd like to see any other HIB reports from previous years, right on our HIB page, which you can get to from the district main page and listed there under HIB grade report. The elements of the self-assessment are listed here with max scores possible per element. And I like to include this because as educators, we tend to assume everything is graded out of 100. This is not graded out of 100, so do not be alarmed when you see numbers in the 70s. That's actually great. The total max score possible here is 78. And we're assessed on things like our programs, our trainings, having dedicated personnel to HIB, our investigation and reporting procedures, etc. Here's some historical data of our self-assessment grades finalized by the DOE from 2016 to 2020. And you can see here that we're in the range of 73 to 77 out of that max score possible of 78. So for those of us who like a grade, we're somewhere in the 94 to 98%. And here is our 2020-2021 final New Jersey DOE approved self-assessment grades by school. And our district average is coming in at a 75 out of that 78. So doing really well, but of course always striving to do better. And finally, who can report and how do you report? Any student, parent, staff member, community member can report an alleged incident of HIB. Our students, our parents, and our community members can choose to report anonymously. Staff members are mandated reporters, so you cannot report anonymously. The report can be verbal or written, and it can be to any staff member. And you can also choose to go on our district website onto the HIB tab, and you'll see an option for reporting there. We use a platform called Hipster, which is in compliance with the newly released DOE mandated reporting forms. And that is it for me. I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Board members, you may submit questions to Director Yanni at this time.
I have a question.
Sure.
It was interesting to see the trainings that have occurred and the student groups, but those are the same reporting years as the data. So I'm wondering if we have the training and education from the prior years leading up to the data, and if we see any correlation whatsoever.
That's a great question. I can definitely pull it up and take a look and compare. I will say that part of the responsibility of our school climate and safety teams is to take a look at the period 1 and period 2 data as they come out biannually and take a look at it and say, what do we see happening in our schools and what can we do to respond? So that definitely is part of their responsibility.
Next, I have a question.
Sure.
The HRB reports, do you see any overriding themes in the types of reports that are coming, or incidents that are being reported?
That's a great question, and yes. Without divulging too much because of student confidentiality laws and being unable to talk about particular subgroups because we don't meet the minimum N size in those subgroups, I can say confidently there are definitely some trends. I've had the opportunity to meet with all of our district administration to talk through those trends. Now the next step is for the school safety and climate teams to walk through those.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you, Director. Thank you. Right. So right before we make the announcement and provide the instructions for public comment, I would just like to inform the public that it was last month when we held a special meeting where we interviewed candidates to fill the vacancy by the nearly incomparable Sharice Tiwari, whom we miss dearly. We then went into executive session and we discussed the candidates' responses. We then returned to the public, and each of the board members that participated were provided a platform to submit their vote, which is representative of their deliberation, which is consistent with our board policy. We had hoped to be able to swear Mr. Douglas Harrington this evening. However, due to a backlog at the state level, the clearance of his fingerprints have not taken place. So, new business from the public. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public. Members of the public are allotted one opportunity to bring a new business to the board for up to 3 minutes per speaker. All comments or questions must be directed to the board president. Before you make your comment, however, please state your name and address and write it in the notebook that's provided. Being mindful of privacy rights regarding students and board employees as well as parents, and to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages references to specific individuals. While directing your comments or questions to the board president, please understand that the public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as Q&A sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities for you to share your thoughts with the board. The board president may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command or protocol within the district. Responses may be provided at the end of the session. There are times when comments and questions will require additional fact gathering before a response is issued to the community member. So, Board Secretary Shower, you have the 3-minute.
Right here.
And first public comment is now open.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Vilek, 4 Coldstream Court in Skillman.
Ms. Vilek, could you sign in?
Oh, thank you. Today I would like to focus on academic excellence in Montgomery District. I can say with certainty that all parents in our district want their children to succeed in life, and they understand that strong education is fundamental to set our children for success. Our district has been declining in rankings for over a decade. When we moved into Montgomery, the district was number 2 in New Jersey. Right now, we are at 27. We fall every year. We even fall lower in rankings for STEM. We are at 31. Our board and superintendent is responsible and accountable for academic performance of our schools. Academic excellence must be #1 goal for our school. It is also the only goal that can be objectively measured and to evaluate performance of our superintendent. If the ranking returns to top 5 schools In New Jersey, our superintendent succeeds. If the ranking continues to decline, it's a failing grade for superintendent. In speaking with many concerned parents in the community, I hear one comment repeating over and over. Almost every parent stated that the schools, high school in particular, focuses only on top performers, and the remaining 80% of students do not get proper academic support to be successful. We must address this problem. It's unacceptable that in the district where the taxpayers pay the highest school taxes in the county and even the state have to supplement their children's education by hiring private tutors or send students to summer school to prepare them for chemistry or math class in the fall. This is all backwards. We have parents of children with dyslexia speaking about ineffective reading program. Where's the commitment to address this problem? We just witnessed a district-wide, all hands-on-deck commitment to develop and implement crucial for our students' sex ed curriculum. Now we want to see the same commitment from the board and the superintendent to improve reading program as well as fix our underperforming science department in high school. In the near future, we will see many new families coming to our district that will depend on government assistance to pay for rent. These students will not be able to afford private tutoring. How are these children going to perform in our district?
Thank you, Ms. Gillette. That's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Jeffrey Grant, 6 Livingston Drive. Before I begin my remarks, I'd like to put in a request for a higher link. That's what I have to do. We have the 3-minute rule again. I don't speak. Okay. So I want to make a remark preface before my remarks before the clock starts. Is I happened to be watching the August 23rd board meeting online, and I noticed that MTEA President Michael Dolan had a 4-minute rant about all the parents that refused to drink the Kool-Aid about their sex ed standards. And Mr. Rodriguez, our equity chair, is here.
Mr. Grant.
Well, I just want to see if they're here because I want to talk.
Point of order, please direct your comments to the board. Thank you.
So he has 6 minutes. So in the interest of, his 6 minutes were actually disparaging me personally. So in the interest of equal time, I request the board give me 6 minutes to deal with the remarks of Mr. Rodriguez to the board on the August 23rd meeting. If I have that 6 minutes?
It's 3 minutes, Mr. Grant.
Why does he get 6 to disparage me and only get 3 to rebut? This is a Fourth Amendment issue, equal protection under the Fourth Amendment.
Mr. Dolan, thank you, board member. Spina, reports and public comments are 2 separate items on our board agenda. So Mr. Jim Dolan reports out for MTEA. This is our public comment time, and our public comment time is for 3 minutes. So you'll have 3 minutes by which to submit your public comment. And I just want to remind you, I refrain from the use of individual names. I don't recall that your name was specifically stated at that particular board meeting.
I made my remark that it's a Fourth Amendment issue, equal protection. He gets 6, I get 6. And I protest the 3. All right, so
Your
when I stand
protest is
up, sorry.
noted, but the 3-minute time frame will be implemented.
All right, when I stand up here and address this board, I'm doing so to help this board and by extension help our town, county, state, and country. Thank you all for your service. Almost a board member, Doug, over here. And but our school system needs your help. I, like other Americans, have empathy and respect for those that have alternative lifestyles and life beliefs. However, they remain culpable to speak and act responsibly and morally like every other American. My remarks are in response to Mr. Rodriguez, Chair of the MTEA Equity Committee, statements at the August 23rd board meeting regarding his June 13th harmonica sunbeam drag queen story hour. I was the one registration cancellation that he referred to. It was me, Jeff Grant. He stated that he sought to address a false narrative surrounding the event, yet he does not realize he has done so from a position based upon lies and deceptions. He claimed that it was okay to invite Harmonica Sunbeam because she was from some trustworthy channel. That's wrong and a lie. That channel didn't invite her here, he did. A simple YouTube search would have revealed mostly nightclub acts, some of which are the most disgusting displays of perversion that I have ever witnessed. Imagine the horrible stain it left on young Montgomery student minds that did a YouTube search. She's not so sweet when you see her nightclub act. Mr. Dolan, the MTEA president, is responsible for making sure Mr. Rodriguez does his job properly. Fact, they both failed to protect our children from immorality. Mr. Rodriguez described this event registration form.
That's 3 minutes, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
That's not 3 minutes.
Yes, sir, it's 3 minutes.
My remarks were a preface to negotiate for more time. I get more time.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Says who?
This is our policy.
It says our policy.
I'll finish my remarks then after other people have spoken.
Would you kindly write your name in the notebook? Yes.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. That's the first time I talk in front of people. Yeah, my son is a current ninth grader, and I have an issue about the high school course selection. Last year, I think 8th grader, when we choose the elective, we realized the foundation of Java class is very hard to take, to choose, because the counselor mentioned that there are not enough spot for everyone who is interested. Especially like ninth grader, none of them can have the chance to take. But because this course is the pre-requirement for AP Computer Science, so that means if you don't take this year, ninth grader, you cannot take AP Computer Science when you are 10th grade. So that means you have to take it later when I will have a chance. So I am asking our district if you have some plan or something. So we hope our kids can take this class called Foundation of Java next year. Because everyone knows junior year is very hard year. We can't delay or cross every AP class to junior year. That make our kids very suffer. Too much pressure. You have to take like 6 AP class in 1 year. That's not fair to them. It's good to separate the AP class, especially like AP computer. It's not a kind of very hard class. So definitely kids can handle it at 10th grade. But now they have to take at least 11 junior year because they cannot take the pre-requirement class. So yeah, that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Janet Church, and I'm from 24 Elm Drive in Skillman.
I would really like to thank the board for rearranging the goals and placing academics as the number one goal. I'd be interested in knowing how it came to be number 3 in the first place, and how and when it was decided to reprioritize at this time. I hope this is a sign that the board is changing course and committing its time and efforts to core academics and less on distracting topics. Joanna already spoke to this, but there was an article published today in the Somerset Daily Voice from niche.com that ranks Montgomery schools as 27th in the state, with our neighbors Princeton ranked at number 12 and West Windsor-Plainsboro ranked 13th and 16th. I wonder how the board does plan to address this, as one of the things that I think keeps Montgomery as high in the rankings as it is right now is the parents that invest thousands of dollars in tutoring services. I sent a letter to the board on October 22nd, and I requested confirmation of receipt. I did not hear back. I resent the letter on August 23rd, again requesting confirmation of receipt. I did not hear back. I did it again on August 31st, nothing. I had friends of mine tell me that they sometimes receive an automated response from the Board of Ed site saying that their letters were received. Sometimes they don't. We double-checked that I was using the correct address. I was. Yesterday, I looked at the board agenda and did not see my email listed under the correspondence. I forwarded my email again yesterday, this time to all the board members. This morning that I see my email is acknowledged, but simply mentioned on the agenda as correspondence regarding letter to the Board of Education. It didn't say anything about subject matter in my letter. So in my mind, all the letters are letters to the Board of Education, and other letters had their general topics listed. I thought that was a misleading way to represent my letter. I've spoken to other people who have written to the board, and I found that many letters are not acknowledged in the agendas. I have a letter here from Candy Willis as just one example of a letter that was never acknowledged, either by an auto-generated email, directly from the board, or mentioned in the agendas. And I'm going to hand this over to you when I'm finished speaking. But I just have one more issue regarding the new health curriculum. I know that we have the opportunity for our students to adopt our students out of the curriculum, but as it was published in the Montgomery News in August, it says that this fall the curriculum will be taught across 7 different disciplines, not just health. So I wonder how that jives with being able to opt out of that topic. So that's all I have to say. And I'll give this letter over to you.
Good afternoon, Board of Ed, Hassan Khan, 14 Livingston Drive. I concur with the previous speaker that my letters also were never acknowledged or responded to, just for the record. Should I start, or?
Oh, yes, let's start.
Because they're chatting. I can wait for them to finish.
You may begin speaking.
I want to make sure you hear me and listen to me.
We hear you. Thank you. I've reset the phone.
Okay. So, in the past few board meetings, many parents were here listening to the presentation. At the August meeting, there was a presentation about the health curriculum. During the summer, the board hosted a town hall where they focused on transparency and communication, which was really appreciated. But I think that the board and the district still has a transparency issue, a trust issue with parents. Many of the parents that have been attending the Board of Ed meetings are aware of the health education curriculum simply because they attended the meetings and they saw the presentation. Over the past month, I have encountered many different Montgomery families are simply not aware of what is going on in the school district. We understand that there is an opt-out process, and many parents here know about it, but the vast majority of the Montgomery community is not aware of the intricate details of the health ed curriculum and is not aware of the opt-out process. I'm very disappointed by the board and the district for not making very clear what the opt-out process is across the different schools. When there is a school closure or a last-minute half-day or early dismissal, the school district makes sure that every family gets a communication on their cell phone, by email, we get robocalls. You make sure we get the communication. The opt-out process in health ed curriculum was no communication throughout the month of September or August on how to do the opt-out process for families. As a result, many families that are unhappy or against their kids being taught this curriculum, unfortunately are getting their kids taught the curriculum simply because they are not aware. I'd like to understand what the board is or the superintendent is planning to do to rectify this immediately. The other thing I wanted to ask is, we just heard a presentation about bullying. During the month of September, a few parents have communicated to me that their kids, the opt-out process at their school was made in a way to kind of leave out the students, make them feel unwelcome, make them feel left out. And I'm not sure what the board or the district is doing to ensure that this doesn't happen. I think it's very important that every student feels welcome, regardless of their religious beliefs, regardless of whatever beliefs they have. Not only those that agree with the health ed curriculum, but not enough is being done to make sure these kids are protected. The last question I have is about Ms. McLaughlin's presentation. I saw there's a number of students that come out of the district. I was not aware about that. If you can please clarify what that is and why this happens. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vijay. I live in Hendrickson Drive. By the way, just wanted to acknowledge that I wasn't aware of this opt-out process till I attended the meeting today. So I'm a bit surprised that this is happening and no one is aware of this. I'm here to talk about primarily AP classes in high school. Pre-COVID, there was an option for AP classes to be, AP exams to be given outside the school if it was not offered in school, the high school. During COVID, this was removed, and when we spoke to the counselor, they did say that because of the COVID, they didn't want the transmission to happen, and that was the main criteria to remove it. But according to President, COVID is gone. So I'm just looking for some kind of idea when this option is going to be put back on the table, where the kids can go back choosing to take AP courses which are not offered in Montgomery outside, so that they can actually take an exam. Thank you.
Jessica Binder, 694 Millstone River Road. I have a fourth grader now. Last year, at the end of the year, they sent a letter very clearly stressing that if he wanted to be in the band, the parents would be responsible for renting the band instrument, as well as responsible for bringing them once a week at 8 o'clock because there would be no transportation. It was stressed several times, so I knew it was a commitment we had to make, and we arranged to make sure he had all that. So when I went to the village back to school night last week, the teacher was talking about how he's getting taken out of writing every Thursday at 10:30. So if you do the math every Thursday throughout the year, that ends up being 20% of the curriculum that he's missing out to go and attend music and learn how to play the instrument, aside from the morning class that he takes on Thursdays at 8:15 before school starts. So I have two issues with that. One, that nobody told me beforehand that he would actually be removed from an academic, because I took into assumption that would have been taken into account by the school, and that 8:15 class would have been possibly where he would be learning the band. I didn't think that it was going to be from his actual academics. It's not far long enough to know if writing is one of his strongest features or not, but it concerns me because I don't feel that he can make up that interaction with his other students. It's only him being removed. The class continues when he comes back. There's only 10 minutes left of class. So now he's either working really hard to be a little bit ahead or playing catch up when he comes back on Friday, which I don't think is fair to him. And so my second part to that is when I came up here and said I can't opt him out of everything because of the way that it's put out throughout the curriculum. I don't understand how writing is state mandated and the school can withdraw him for 20% of the curriculum, but I'm not able to do that for something that's passionate to him, me, and our whole family, our religious beliefs, and a lot of other things that we stand for. Quite frankly, I think my religious beliefs and our family morals and our core is more important than playing a band instrument. So I'm not understanding how you get to decide, you, the school, whoever, gets to decide what's more important to my child to learn and to be exposed to than me, his mother. So I really need some clarification as to how that's being justified and why you're even offering something that what obviously is not properly integrated into his, it's affecting him. And I'm not going to take him to writing, he's taking writing at school. So, and if this wouldn't have been brought up at this meeting, I would have never even known. Because he's too small, he doesn't understand that he's losing out on something. He's not going to come and say, hey mom, I'm really having trouble with writing because I'm going to band. So this has to be said to me from an adult. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'll remember to say my name this time. Francine Pfeffer, Mystic Drive, Skillman, and I'll even write it down. I always forget to say it. I'm just here briefly. I hear the comments of people that have spoken to me, and I would like to thank the Board of Ed for the focus it places on social emotional learning. I know some people think that's a distraction, but as an educator, I understand that students really can't learn unless they are whole emotionally and they have connection to the community around them. That includes their parents, their teachers, their peers in school. And so the district's spending a lot of time on social emotional learning as one of your goals. Especially, it was always important before COVID, but since COVID it is even more important. And I applaud the district for doing that. I applaud the superintendent and the board for knowing that that is one of the key things we can teach our students, because if they don't have that, they really don't learn as well. And I would just like to say, living here, I moved here because of the excellence of the school system. And sometimes I think it's a little too excellent, to be perfectly honest. But the difference between being number 2 or 15 is kind of like Harvard, which has more 4.0s applying than they have space in their freshman class. So everybody knows when you say you live in Montgomery that your kids go to an excellent, excellent school. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Franklin Road, Skillman. Good evening. I just wanted to make some remarks about remarks that were made during the last school board meeting, which I reviewed some of those. A couple parents got up to claim that their true interest was in the sex ed curriculum, not LGBTQ+ inclusive issues. They stated they're not bigots, they believe in inclusion. Their statements were made after the curriculum was explained in detail should have allayed any fears that the curriculum was inappropriate for young children. Reviewing the slides presented last month for the youngest children, I found the following. This is taken directly from the slides. Grade 1, they'll be taught that families can be different. Reproduction will be taught at the ducks have ducklings and bears have cubs level. Grade 2, gender stereotypes are harmful. Grade 3, different types of families are discussed. Grade 4, puberty hormonal changes. My research today told me puberty can begin as early as 8 for girls and 9 for boys, so this seems appropriate to me. Grade 5, puberty, hormones, scientific explanation of reproduction, acceptance of all gender identities, and orientations. Yet even after this very thorough presentation, there's 2 parents who claim to be only concerned about the sex ed and not about inclusion issues with the following statements, and I think they speak to the true agenda. Quote, are you favoring the inclusion of some communities while excluding others of children of people of faith? Are you going to allow some children to be bullied while favoring others? Are we creating a 2-standard system? My comment, I thought we were talking about sex ed. What community are you referring to? Are you wrongly assuming that the LGBTQ+ community does not include people of faith? Second quote, I want to teach these controversial topics. I do have a belief system. This all seems to be about one certain group. My comments. Sex ed is science. It is your belief system that is making it controversial for you. And what one certain group are you talking about if we're just talking about the sex ed? And another speaker, with regards to sexual education, I don't want to explain the deeply nuanced faith tradition of my faith, which is an extremely inclusive faith, on why we believe what we believe. How do we assume that the faith system is being respected and that she is not feeling left out? My comment, if your faith requires that you explain why not all people are equal, that is your job as a parent and not the school's. The school job is to treat everyone equally. I applaud you for not wanting your daughter to feel left out. Gay folks know all about that. If we are simply talking about including all types of families and people as equals, as the curriculum does, I fail to see how it is inappropriate or how it is controversial. A system where we do not teach equality for all people is a 2-tier system. Sex is not being discussed with these young children, so I'm left to conclude that these parents do not want their children being taught inclusion and equality for LGBTQ+ families or children. My interpretation of the remarks is, equality for all people should not be taught to my young children before I can explain to them that we do not accept or treat all people as equals. While I believe these parents have the right to teach their children the tenets of their faith, which may, I don't know, include that LGBTQ+ folks are not equal, the school should not be complicit in this divisive teaching. 2 more comments after the comments earlier. 1, it's not a lifestyle, it's a life. I don't know, that's what I have a life. Cherry Valley, maybe living there is a lifestyle. Maybe having a beach house is a lifestyle. I just have a life. And secondly, I'm getting kind of tired. Dang, I'll save it for next time. Thank you. That will conclude.
Mark Editor, 206, Okay, I just want to finish up some comments. In the near future, we will see new families coming up to our district that will depend on government assistance to pay rent. These students will not be able to afford tutoring. How will these children go on to perform in our school district where a teacher on our first day of class states, many of you will fail this class? How are these students going to thrive when they have a chemistry and IPLS teacher who does not have a set curriculum, do not have study material or set lessons plan? Instead of teaching, they instruct students to learn from each other while teachers leave the classroom? What is the plan to reverse the decline in school ranking? What is the board's commitment to ensure academic excellence and quality education for our students? Right now, our students are demoralized, feel defeated, and unable to learn. What is the plan to address the problem? How is the board going to hold the superintendent and others accountable to bring the academics back to the school system? Okay, so one little minor thing for my child. She plays in the soccer field and she's always playing on the lower soccer field instead of the other side where the boys are. That's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to address that seems to be an issue is that they like to vilify people here, and I guess I'm a villain because we can all play the other side, and I do care about everybody's kid. So this is plain and simple. Academics need to be priority, and that doesn't seem to be like the issue here. As far as the ranking these other school systems, let's really look at them. They have less money than us, they're doing better than us. Simple question, why? Not even going to read the rest of my comments. How is that possible? Are we not sinking enough money? Because that can't be the issue, because the other school systems are not putting that type of money into their school. So why are we ranking less? That's why I moved here. That's why I pay more taxes here. I would like an answer, and I would like something as simple as a red receipt for all the emails that we send. Not a harsh thing to do. There's an auto reply feature. We want to be acknowledged. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us again this month. One of the things I really wanted to talk about is some of the goals that have been shared with this community and the school district. Number one goal that was shared was equity. And one of those components was cultural competency. And if I take a look at Chapter 32, an act concerning diversity, inclusion, institution and school district, and supplementing Chapter 35 of Title 18A of New Jersey statute talks about the fact that institutions shall highlight and promote diversity, inclusion, economic diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, and belonging in connection with gender and sexual orientation, race and ethnicity, disabilities, and religious tolerance. Some of those things also talk about the Commissioner of Education shall provide school district with sample learning activities and resources designed to promote diversity and inclusion across all of those components. So my question to you is, as you have heard us come here every month and discuss the sex education, and it simply has to do with the children that we raise, and we realize that the age that they're being introduced to this level of information is inappropriate. We have kids, some of us have more than one, some of us have 3, some of us have 5, and we know that they're all different and they learn at different phases. And what we've identified as parents of those children is that it's just simply too early to educate them on some of the sexual content that's being promoted in the school district. So the question for you is, why are we only focusing on specific groups that are being highlighted and specific information that's being highlighted in our school district? Why aren't we focusing on some of the concerns that you've heard from parents here? Whether they're religious beliefs, whether it's the way that they're raising their children. Why aren't we working together to create something that's going to allow all of us to function together? We have up to this point, and I'm not quite sure why parents coming up here talking about being concerned about in 8th grade learning that abortion is a form of medical procedure is wrong for us to say. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't believe in it, and that should be respected just as anything else. So my question to you is, what is it that we're going to do about this? Are we going to continue dividing this community and driving this level of conversation when we have people coming here talking about LGBTQ plus community? Not once have you heard any of those parents say anything negative about that community. We have nothing against it. We're simply here to protect our children. And that is as simple as it gets. So my question to you is, please provide an opt-out option. Please provide an opt-out option for all of those parents in the school district. Please allow them to go into Genesis and fill that out. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Roberts, and I live at 48 Harlingen Road. I've lived in Montgomery.
Can you just sign the vote?
Oh, sure. Just a minute.
Sure, let's start.
Okay. I have lived in Montgomery since 1986, and I have two children who attended the school system. And I want to state my opinion that it's a good thing to have age-appropriate sex education from the earliest grades. One of my children had an experience in kindergarten, not in school, fortunately, but it could have been in school. And it was an experience of being bullied what happened was they hugged a friend and were immediately teased and accused of being gay. And as it happens, this child was not gay and is not now gay, never has been gay. So it happened to any one of your children who just does or says the wrong thing. And it's valuable to teach tolerance and to give some education about some of these issues for a very early age. And it can help them not only at school, but in the rest of their life. And I know that it is considered important for school to prepare children for jobs that they will eventually have. And there may be some people, some kids who grow up in families with religions that don't approve of LGBTQIA people and don't give information about them at home. And the child goes out and gets a job, and maybe some of their customers are LGBTQIA, or some other ethnic minority that it's important to learn tolerance for, or people who are immigrants and ESL learners, and the disabled people, and make the child who's grown up and got a job might make an insensitive comment and lose their job. And I think it's very important that the schools teach their students to relate appropriately to all kinds of people that they may encounter in their future education or jobs or other endeavors. And thank you very much for providing that.
Hi guys, Qasim Zaidi, 258 Boston Road, Skillman, New Jersey. I came in pretty late, so apologies about that, but I wanted to reiterate something that I heard that I think is an important point, right? Like, I know there has been a subset of people, and the Board of Education meetings seem to be completely dominated by this one topic for the past 6 months. Yeah? What's concerning to me is that while we have done some opt-out work and talked about that, it seems inconsistent in the knowledge shared that's happened. Like, a lot of people are not aware about it. But also, the second point is that we need to really think about this whole dollars per kid spent relative to the rankings of the school, right? I think, yes, there is for some reason, not a lot being heard or implemented based on what a not insignificant portion of the community is saying about the sex education curriculum. That's problem number one, or concern number one, because we're not seeing any concrete actions on how we're going to actually improve or change or course correct based on some of this feedback, other than there's an opt-out mechanism, but not a lot of parents know. But this other concern about our rankings either dropping or not being as high as they used to be or slipping or whatever, I think that is something that we really need to have some self-reflection on. What's driving those rankings, right? What are other communities doing that may not be having as, or maybe responding to the concerns in a way that's reducing this churn on the same topic for 6 to 9 months and people feeling like they're not heard? Like, what are they doing that, like, maybe they're having similar Board of Education meetings, but frankly, like, I'm over it, guys. I just kind of want to move on with a path that's acceptable to your core constituents and not just one group of core constituents, because right now it seems like only one group's been addressed and a lot of the people sitting here feel like they're not being heard. And it's distracting you guys from what you're supposed to be doing, which is focusing on academics. And the rankings are showing that, yes, someone's distracted because the rankings are dropping. And we're paying a lot of taxes, probably higher taxes than a lot of exams. So that's my concern, like this distraction and the fact that academics first, children first, from an academic perspective should be our motto. But all I've heard really any conversation about for the past 6 months has been on this other topic, which we're not, it's like a brick wall. People are coming and talking. So, yeah, so thank you.
John Mintner, 694 Millstone River Road. One question I have is the building for Kid Connection. $680,000, I believe the number is that you proposed that would be the one time, 1 year. The rest is 1.6, which would be running it every year. For $680,000, what are we getting? Are we getting a new building? Or are we just renovating the inside? I mean, just out of curiosity, I just want to know that. I'm sure there's other people that are wondering the same thing. The other thing is, quite a few meetings ago I brought up drug testing for teachers, maybe even background checks that happen more and more often. I'm not mad about it. I have a CDL, I have my passenger endorsement. Every 2 years, I get a drug test mandated that's federal. I believe it's the state that mandates my fingerprints that gets checked every year. And every 2 years, I get a federal background check on top of that, which is perfectly fine. But in my opinion, the use of marijuana, now that it's completely legal, that'd be the next question I have is there any way to check teachers, students, anybody you see that's high? What is the, marijuana's legal. Can they just do it wherever they want? You can't smoke cigarettes on school grounds, but can you smoke marijuana, be my next question. So it sounds ridiculous, but tobacco back in the day when I came here, I don't see anything that says no smoking. Well, that's tobacco products when you break it down. There's nothing about marijuana, so our kids are allowed to smoke marijuana here at school. Am I allowed to? I don't want nothing for it, but that's some of the questions I have, and that's it. Thanks.
So it looks like that will conclude our public session at this time. Superintendent McLaughlin, we have a list of questions by which to respond.
I have a question about
at
the
this
timer.
time.
Dr. Wallace, I have a question about the timer. You don't have the timer up anymore? Can we
Yeah,
put that up?
I was studying on the screen.
No, you used to have it on the screen.
I know, yes, I understand that, I have it on the phone.
But we can't see that. I didn't know when you started the timer. When I was
I
speaking.
guess it's fake.
It's what?
It's fake, 3 minutes.
Well, can you put it on the screen for next meeting, please?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first question was about the high school course selection guide, and from what I interpreted was that ninth graders, sometimes there's too many of them that want to take the prerequisite class to take the AP computer science class for 10th grade. So that's a definite high school specific question for that department, so I will forward that to the high school principal. And if you signed in, because I did not get your name, I could have someone reach back out to you. So July 22nd, there was a letter sent by me, kind of exactly how, like delayed opening, all of that, notifying parents of the health curriculum with links, and it's very clear about the opt-out. So every single person in our system got that letter. So somebody said that there was no transparency. It was every parent received the letter, and it's right there, very clear. July 22nd letter from me. You can look it up in your email. For out-of-district placements, those are for students with disabilities that we do not have a program for. Usually children with such severe disabilities that they need to go to a specialized school. Again, the AP question that came up about COVID and choosing AP courses not offered at Montgomery High School, that again is a very school-specific question, so I will have someone reach out to you if you signed in. The next question came about music, and I have right here the parent signs a form that says, I understand that my child will have weekly 30-minute lessons per week that takes place during their academic class time. My child will be responsible for making up any missed work due to attending their lesson. I also understand that I am responsible for transportation to the before-school rehearsals, which will take place 1 to 2 mornings per week, and then it's signed off with an email, and that's the answer for that one. You have to be 21 years old to purchase marijuana legally, and we have maybe 2 students that might fit that category of age. So no, marijuana is not allowed to be smoked on school premises.
What about the teachers?
There is no smoking on school premises. There's no vaping, none of that. No, any of that. There's policy for that.
I apologize, I'm looking at the email, there's no reference to opt-out option. It's a communication on the new curriculum that's being presented, but there's no...
There's a link that brings you right to our website, that it's right there on the first page.
Also in the email, it was a May 23rd email that references it.
That's 5 months.
Oh, and there's a May 23rd email too.
Well, why isn't there a September?
It was in May and July. Email that was sent.
Sent it 4 months ago. There's no opt-out even in the link.
Yeah, there is no option. Yes, correct.
There's no transparency.
Okay, so we also... Yeah, every email that's received by the BOE email gets a automated response. So if you do not receive that, that means that for some reason something happened to that email. I know your email that we received yesterday for the first time as church, right, was, and you can tell that you sent it to the correct email several times. It was never received. It's not in our... We're looking into it. It was not in spam. It was not anywhere.
That's not an external, as far as we know, I'm not a technology expert, but it sounds as if it is an internal issue. And I know that I've spoken to Board Secretary Shower and Superintendent McLaughlin because I looked on my email and I do see the correspondence that you sent initially on August 22nd. So we're not sure. So I know that there is going to be diligent follow-up to ensure that each and every parent's communication that is sent to the board, particularly using that BDO Fed, right, BD event, right, email address is acknowledged and is received, because that is very important to us, as well as the follow-up. Now, that is also going to be a part of that fact gathering and that troubleshooting, because it's our understanding that there is an automatic reply that is sent, and depending on the content, I know Superintendent McLaughlin and Board Secretary Shower actually follow up by sending a response to that inquiry. Now, it seems as if, and I'll have to just bear with me, I will do my own investigation and reconcile what is printed on the agenda and how the email, particularly in the subject line, if there is an alignment to how it is described on our agenda. Now, in all of your emails that were sent on the 22nd, on the 23rd, and then again on September 26th, as in the subject, you listed letter to the Board of Education, and that's how it's listed here, letter to the Board of Education. So allow me that time to do some research again and reconcile with all of the others. Correspondence that we receive, if that's what is listed in the subject line. I don't know, I can't answer that right now, so I'm just asking for you to be patient and to allow that investigation to take place. But do you have some more further insight on that?
The Board of Education email is BD of Ed, so that's BD of Ed at MTSD.us. That comes to my office as Board Secretary. It should have, and I know for a fact it does because I checked it, it has an automatic respond back that says, thank you for your correspondence, something to the effect of, we'll be in touch shortly, your correspondence has been noted. If the public does not receive that bounce back, then your message was not received. So in Mrs. Church's example, I just found out as Board Secretary, the first time I found out about your correspondence was yesterday. So we did due diligence, we read your correspondence, we put that on the agenda for acceptance this evening. And my intent, Ms. Church, was to respond to you tomorrow with all honesty, because you do raise some very important points. We are sorry, we have to do, as President Spence-Wallace indicated, we have to do some homework and find out what happened. But as Board Secretary, I had not received that until yesterday.
She's not the only one, by the way.
Thank you. We're looking at the entire system, so thank you.
Can we go back to the previous question about the transparency?
The public comment is closed at this time, so there's no further questions for public comment.
Can I respond to the goals
Board member,
changing?
Carlson?
The other question I had about goals changing?
Yes, Superintendent McLaughlin, did you want to respond to that?
Sure, so the goals were never in order of importance.
But they were numbers, they weren't bullets, they were numbers.
The numbers were indicating the number of goals, and there are 4 of them. They weren't ranked or rated.
Well, that's just how it appears.
Right, so we heard
So why did
you
you
and
change it? It wasn't.
because it came up in a board meeting that people believed that it was ranked, so we moved it to.
So now it's ranked or it's not?
It is not ranked.
Why not?
Because all 4 goals are equally important.
No, they're not.
They're not.
You can't have 4 goals equally important. It's impossible. Who decides
So why
that?
change it if they're equally important? Why don't you just say at the top they're equally important?
Board Secretary Shower, you wanted to respond
Yeah, I
to
wanted
one
to
of
respond to
the
Mr.
questions
Schutzer,
during public comment.
The $600,000.
Yeah, so,
Point of order, right? The new business public comment section is closed at this time, right? The Montgomery Township Board of Education does not participate in question and answer format during our formal public board meetings. We do engage, however, in a more informal communicative exchange when we facilitate informal public meeting sessions such as at our town halls. So we will be very appreciative of your cooperation and understanding of that standard of our formal mandated public meeting sessions. So thank you so much. So Board Secretary Shower, you wanted to respond about the referendum question.
Yeah, so we do have a public question, as you know, coming up in November. We will be having a town hall meeting in October. We're hoping the public is out to hear all about the exciting new things we have planned for full-day kindergarten. Specifically, Mr. Weaver, to your question, the $600,000, we actually were deeded this property by Montgomery Township municipality. And when we got the building, it was not in great shape. It had been vacant for over 2 years. So your question as far as what exactly comprises that $600,000 is a lot of upkeep that should have been done when the building was operational. So we're looking at water issues on the outside of the flashing of the actual building. We're looking at required gutter repairs. We're looking at replacing our entire HVAC system. We're looking, more importantly, at addressing some security and safety issues that the building is no longer compliant or is no longer in code with what we think is acceptable for safety and security of our buildings. It requires new doors that swing out rather than in. We have pamphlets over here for the public that indicates all the information regarding that question for the public referendum. And I know $600,000 seems like a lot to the public, but really in the scope of our budget, it's barely 0.25%. So the $600,000 is a one-time cost to bring the building up to code, up to speed, up to what our children deserve as far as a pre-K program. And not to get too detailed with security and safety, but we've got major upgrades to make in that building. New windows, new roofing. We have to repave, if anybody's seen the parking lot. The parking lot is in disarray. So the money is
Don't hire the same guy who did the high school.
So the money, not the roof, Mr. Weaver. We're going to pass on the roof. But the money goes quickly. So thank you for your interest in this. It's a wonderful question. I appreciate you asking it. Thank you.
And finally, in response about the community's concern or issue around the ranking of our school district. So there are several publication sources in the state of New Jersey, and they vary in the formula that they use to determine the ranking of high schools, right, to which there are upwards of 866 high schools in the state of New Jersey, and the entire school district, to which there are upwards of, a little over 600 public school districts in New Jersey, right? So I think it's Niche, New Jersey Monthly, the Princeton Review, even national publications. The most popular is U.S. News and World Report. And each high school and or public school district rankings, depending on that publication's formula, will vary. So, for example, I think Ms. Vlog may be pulling her information from Niche. I'm not sure. Right? Is that the source that you're using?
Yeah, 25th.
Right. Yes. So it has now. When you Google it, it has it. Montgomery Public Schools listed as number 25 or 27. Out of 612, I think that would put the Montgomery Township Public School Districts in that particular publication in the top 4%, which is not bad. All public school districts and all high schools in New Jersey will vacillate in terms of their ranking. As early as the middle of the 2021 school year, one publication identified Montgomery High School as number 16 in the state, having formerly been in the middle to high 20s. So we are a public school district that is not necessarily influenced by these rankings because they're subjective, right? we're more interested in the use of data and analyzing the various forms of data, looking at our community, knowing what the standards and legislation is, and developing and implementing, a high-quality education for the various types of students and the various types of learners that we have here in this district. I know my younger son is currently a senior at Montgomery High School, and I have 2 other graduates. I have a network that expands with families that I met through various athletics, such as cheer and football and baseball and basketball. So we're talking hundreds and hundreds of parents of students that I have known for the 14 or 15 years that I've been living here in Montgomery Township, and these children are exceptional. They really are outstanding, and it's not because of a ranking that a subjective publication has produced, but it's because of the attention that's provided for our children that enhances their emotional intelligence. And if there's any human being on this earth that is incapable of acknowledging the value of emotional intelligence and how it positively correlates to academic achievement and social interaction abilities, I just recommend that you examine a peer-reviewed journal because the data is pretty conclusive in that area. Our children and even how we operate, we're not solely these academic producing human beings. There are many different parts to who we are and how we function. And a public school district is charged to do the best that we can to address and provide input to children for those various parts that make up who they are. So we thank you, and at this time, we're at the point of our agenda where we're going to move to our board's representative reports. Yes.
I think Mr. Bittner brought up another one. I hadn't really thought of it. Is that now that marijuana is Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Now that marijuana is legalized and all of our teachers are over 21, he asked about drug testing. And I'm sure we have something set up for that. Maybe we want to talk about this offline, but I want to get up there. Something I'm wondering about.
Duly noted, Board Member Carson. Yes, Superintendent McLaughlin will follow up with you.
We do have board policy, one being under the open session.
Right. Okay, great. Yes, Board Member Speck.
There was one other area, and maybe you're going to cover this during the ACI committee report, but there was a comment about dyslexia and reading, and I believe that there are things moving forward with that. So I just wanted to
yes.
see if that's something that you're going to comment on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The other thing is, I think we can all agree that academics are critically important. That's why we're here. We're here for the students. So I don't think there's any disagreement there. I think that the comment about providing information is also useful, though. We have, unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, we have certain required presentations, as were done tonight, that take time in the board meeting. I'd like to make sure, though, that we're not just, that we're providing information about other things around, what we're doing academically and what things are happening in the district. I appreciate the superintendent's comments about new courses being added, and so those types of things I think are important to continue to publicize. Thank you.
Thank you. We covered those with our, thank you everyone. We covered those in our assessment curriculum and instruction committee as well, and all of those reports. So Mr. Jim Dolan, would you please approach the podium to deliver yours here? To deliver the NTEA report. Thank you so much.
In the back. All good.
Good evening, board members, community members, administrators, and colleagues. Thank you for being here tonight. And for those who are here with us live and those who are virtual as well. I want to take care of a couple things first. Just referencing the June Pride event from the MTEA, we gave our final word on that at the August 23rd meeting. So if you want to go back and look at that video, it clearly defines and articulates what exactly happened on the event. So if there's any questions, just watch that video. It's posted online. I'm also here before, during, after board meetings, and the other 30 days of the month. So pretty easy to find. If anyone has any questions or concerns, and certainly open to talking about it. I also want to remind some of our people during public comment to adhere to the board policy of not using staff members' names. Some people routinely ignore that, and that is an important part of the board policy. I do appreciate our board president setting the tone at the beginning of today's meeting and also acknowledging that policy routinely. One other thing that was brought up was student achievement. I don't think there's anyone in this room that does not agree with student achievement. That's why we're all here. So that's not really a concern. What I did here, which was a little disturbing, was the word distraction. If you're familiar with a little psychology and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we know that we have to satisfy the most basic of needs before we can do anything else. We have to provide shelter, food, safety, comfort, and a sense of belonging. Once we do that, we can take care of the higher things along the way. So it's not a distraction. It's taking care of the most basic needs first before we can do anything else. So once we can do that and satisfy that, we can certainly work on achievement, because we all do agree on achievement. Now to a little more of the fun stuff. We had a fantastic start to the school year. It was great seeing the buildings alive, with smiles, energy. Students are engaged in academics, clubs, athletics. There's nothing like the beginning of the school year, a fresh new start to the year. And I was able to get around the building to see that firsthand. So really amazing, wonderful to see all the excitement. And it really does emphasize the collective work we all do to support students, not just academically, but social and emotionally. We have to support them at all different levels. We talked about it briefly today, so I'm sure by now everyone knows we're going to have a question on our ballot to implement full-day kindergarten. The benefits of full-day kindergarten are for the experience of our youngest learners. They're rooted in academic learning and social and emotional growth. It will help support every child entering our school system, creating a strong educational foundation that will carry them forward all the way to the high school. Hard to think when you have a kindergarten come in, but yet time does go quite quickly. For those who don't have kindergarten-age children, there's an old proverb that sums it up. Blessed are those who plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. One other little disheartening thing I just wanted to make public, and it goes to some of the misinformation I think the board addressed earlier today at the meeting. We have a public social media presence for our association, and I recently had to turn off comments on that because of some of the lies, misinformation, and hate that was being spread. There was also an individual that kept spamming our Facebook site repeatedly with comments and leaving crying emojis from one of our keynote speakers at our convocation, and a crying emoji with some of our members posting having breakfast on the first day back. So I decided to leave those posts out there, but I turned off posting because I wanted to have a record of who's doing what and who's saying what on our social media account. It was also inferred that I had the supreme power and influence over the 8 sitting board members to pick the next board member. Very interesting, because if I had that kind of supreme power, I would have
thought that our negotiations would have lasted more like 9 days rather than 9 months. So our site, just so everyone knows, is open to all community members, staff, administrators. It's open. You can like it. You can comment. And we did really enjoy the comments that we'd see from parents, from community members, from board members, whoever was on there, seeing the wonderful things that go on in our school. So I really hope to return to that soon, and we can open up comments and have that dialogue that we are used to. That's all for today. But thank you, board members, for the time as always.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. The delegate reports
Yeah.
we begin now.
So I attended the middle school PTO meeting that was held virtually on the 16th. There were around 40 parents, building administrators and staff on the call, and there was good exchange and discussion, especially around the start of the school year. One of the themes that came up by both the parents and the staff was the joy of moving back to some of the pre-pandemic practices that we had and various events that are planned throughout the year. For example, at the upper middle school, the Camp Mason trip and planning around that is definitely a positive. I'll make another comment though. The elementary school PTA, the middle school PTO, and the high school PTSAs all do amazing work to support our students and staff. Their fundraising programs provide resources to teachers, and they sponsor programs for our children. And I just want to lobby on their behalf that I hope everyone that cares about this district joins the PTA or PTOs that's applicable to them, because it does provide support, not just to them, but obviously it translates to the children themselves. So that was my report.
Thank you, Board Member Speck. Are there any other delegate reports? Board Member Spina?
Yes, I have some updates from the Montgomery Rockville Municipal Alliance. It is Suicide Prevention Month this month, and we're doing some work in that area. And next month actually is Cannabis Awareness and Prevention, and they're going to be running some informative sessions for parents and youth to be talking about this. So I know that was brought up tonight. I thought that would be nice, so you can go check out their Facebook page. They have dates and information about that.
Thank you. Any other delegate reports? Hearing none, we will move to our board committee reports, starting with assessment, curriculum, and instruction, to which I have the pleasure to continue to serve on your behalf as the chair. And I share that responsibility with the Assistant Superintendent, Damian Papa. We met on Wednesday, September 14th. At the beginning of the meeting, Damian Papa and the Director of Equity, Data, and Accountability, Stacy Young, explained that the ACI agenda will be restructured to show the district's equity initiatives throughout the curriculum rather than singling out the equity work. Likewise, Ms. Young will enhance a flow chart that will demonstrate how the equity work appears in significant district work practices, programs, and in teaching and learning. Next, the Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development Director, Fiona Moreland, reported the importance of consistent and comparable data. Data helps us identify students for participation in co-curricular activities and support their individual achievements as well. Data sources help us identify post-pandemic learning gaps, and data helps us evaluate our curriculum to produce relevant upgrades. As a result of this analysis, the district realized it needed assessment tools that not only are to be used with fidelity, but also more accurately aligns with students' learning style. The teacher's role was vital as their feedback was highly considered. STAR 360, Renaissance, Freckle, and more are tools we now utilize. Feel free to talk to your child's teacher about the assessment tools they will use with your children. New Jersey legislation 18A 35-4.36A speaks to all public school districts integrating DEI into their curriculum. When we look at our social studies curriculum, for example, the vision there is to develop civic-minded, globally aware, and socially responsible people with multiple perspectives that promote cultural understanding. Moreover, in the Gifted and Talented program, communication was sent to parents of voyageurs and expeditioners last month to determine continued participation. Those programs will commence at the beginning of next month. Also in October, grade 1 students will be administered the COGAT, while grade K will receive an appropriate version of COGAT in January. In the spring, students in grades 2 through 8 will sit for the COGAT. And the COGAT is a measurement tool that looks at the level and patterns of cognitive development. Teacher recommendation is also another source that will determine participation in the GNT program. As well, the board continues to require the district to expand student representation so that it's reflective of all those that attend our district. So pathways to do so are being explored. On behalf of the counseling director, Damian Papa reported that the next SAT at MHS is October 1st and the PSATs will be held October 12th. MHS counselors conducted college presentations for seniors on September 12th and 13th. The monitoring and evaluation tool public school districts are subject to by the New Jersey Department of Education is called QSAC, and that stands for Quality Single Accountability Continuum. QSAC transitioned over the years from a compliance focus to more of a capacity building focus. So QSAC consolidates the monitoring requirements of relevant legislation, and the evaluation process complements federally required improvements. The system assesses school districts in 5 components that research has shown us to be key factors in effectively running public school districts. And those components include instruction and program, fiscal, governance, operations, and personnel. The rated tool is then used as a way for districts to participate in continuous improvement by way of corrective action, where noted, to provide a high-quality education to students while also creating a positive culture and climate for its staff. So Montgomery Township Public Schools has a full adherence to education standards and related legislation. It's a part of the reason for our excellence, for the admiration of others throughout the state. And we will continue to operate with fidelity and excellence. Finally, as a sports fanatic, we are proud to report that our Montgomery Cougars football team is 5-0. So please check out the athletics department's webpage if you are also interested in cheering on our talented student athletes. So we know, and as already iterated earlier this year, athletics is not only a way to demonstrate physical prowess, it's also a pathway for development of lifelong skills in the area of leadership, time management, mentorship, and yields higher academic performance, as well as an overall sense of responsibility and accountability. So go Cougars. Next, we will hear from Board Member Spina with the Equity Committee report, as well as the ARRC report.
The Equity Committee met on Monday, September 19th. We welcomed everyone to the beginning of the school year and requested everyone review the charter before our next meeting. We looked at reports on HIV and discipline, student achievement, and the achievement gap, and DEI and professional development. We will be collecting information on these issues this fall. And we have not resumed meetings of ARRC. That subcommittee is only being reorganized.
Thank you. So Secretary Todd, would you give our Operations, Facilities, and Finance Committee report, followed by Board Member respect with our Policy and Communications Committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. OFF met on Friday, September 9th, and since this was the first meeting of the school year, meeting was relatively short. We discussed the various monthly financial reports, which are presented as items 3.1 through 3.4 on the agenda, as well as discuss the contract with Critical Response Group, which is also on tonight's agenda. We discussed facilities projects that were completed over the summer, such as high school parking lot paving and traffic flow improvements, classroom tiling at 2 elementary schools, as well as gym floor repairs at UMS, among other items. Lastly, we discussed our new food vendor, Machios, and again, giving a shout out to the Food Service Committee for making that change. Overall feedback from the students and parents has been very positive. While we do acknowledge there are some staffing challenges that remain, we will continue to work with Machios to help get these matters resolved. And that's it.
So the Policy and Communications Committee met on September 15th. Unlike a prior version of the minutes for the last board meeting, we did not meet in August. So consequently, there are no policies up for adoption tonight. However, we do have 4 policies and associated regulations that are up for first reading as agenda item 1.2. A couple of things to note. One of them is that we already have an existing policy 0141.3 for the student representative. And by the way, welcome again. The numbering of that policy was incorrect, so in addition to updating the policy to reflect some legal changes, we're also including the renumbering of that policy. I want to also mention and clarify that there's a policy that we have tonight, 5513, that is called care of school property. It sounds like that's pretty overarching. In parts of it, they'll concentrate on use of textbooks, and that's partly because of legal requirements. There are other policies, though, around use of technology and vandalism and other things that are cross-referenced in that policy. So if you have any questions, you can refer to those. And finally, while we were reviewing policy 0163 that's up for first reading on our quorum procedures, we discussed the fact that we don't currently have a policy that explicitly addresses virtual attendance at board meetings or other meetings, committee meetings, for example. And so at an upcoming PCC meeting, we will be gathering input from our board attorney and School Boards Association to consider how to handle that, and if other policies, including 0164, which is about conduct of board meetings, if those need to be revised. So if anyone has input on any of those things, obviously, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. First, we HR Committee report.
Yeah, so the Human Resources Committee met on September 13. Unfortunately, I was not around. However, I did get in touch with Assistant Superintendent Kelly Mattis to discuss the agenda. And most of the meeting discussion focused on confidential staff matters. Unless President Wallace and Vice President Todd had anything to add, I know it was mostly held an executive session for staff.
Correct.
Yes. That's it. And our final report is our officers' report. I'd like to invite MTEA President, Mr. Jim Dolan, to the podium. But while he's walking up, good evening again, everyone. So our Special Services Ad Hoc Committee will resume their meeting time starting in November. Just after the 2 fiscal year 22 subcommittees, our early literacy and the IEP process, publicly report out on the work that was performed in those committees, and that will take place at our October 2022 board meeting. So now, it is with great pleasure, Mr. Jim Dolan, that I will defer to you to give us an announcement about updates on our negotiations teams.
Wow, I was just going to go along with your comments. If you want me to have the breaking news, that's fine. So I alluded to the length of our negotiations. We use the interest-based bargaining process. We started way back when, months ago. It seemed like September, October-ish. Learned the process, understood the process, went through it very successfully, and finally, last week, we came to an agreement between the MTEA and the Board of Education, and we're very happy with that agreement that we have. I want to thank our representatives from the board, Mr. Speck, Mr. Tom, President Spence-Wallace, Phyllis Birch. Did I miss anyone? That was four, otherwise we'd have quorum. We can't do that. So it was a great process. As anything, you know, we go back and forth, but we had maintained respect throughout the process, and we respected the process to get through it. So really excited for this because it's a huge weight lifted from everyone. You know, some people might think of it, oh, it's a contract or it's a piece of paper, but it has a lot of value to it that goes beyond just the contractual language and the salaries that go on the contract. It just gives people a sense of relief as far as our members, that it's done, it's finished. It certainly gives our own negotiating team a lot of relief as well that we're finished, and we can move forward and we can put our time to better things. I don't know about some of you, but my picture was rumored to be on the back of a milk carton somewhere, and my family could not find me half the time because I was at the board office eating garlic knots with the rest of you. So, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, it was the interest-based bargaining process. It was tedious, but both sides were committed to collaborating and reaching resolution on issues, particularly on those that we were once wide apart in the earlier months. So our next meeting is TBD, but the next steps will cover reviewing and signing the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement, finalizing the salary guides, and ratification by the MTEA members, and then finally a vote by the Board of Education. So thank you. It was our pleasure. Any board members have any comments? Otherwise, we will move on to our officers' report. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
All right, glad we can celebrate the news together.
By our first and second VPs, Franco, Herman, and Todd, to share with you what I prepared for the fiscal year 23 district staff convocation that took place on Thursday, September 1st at the MCAT. So I will do that briefly here this evening. So the presentation centered around the word hero. So H was healthy mind, body, and spirit. So becoming aware of the mind, body, spirit connection is our most powerful tool in fostering life balance. So it is through this connection that we find strength and love and inner peace, courage, and wellness. All require characteristics to being a board member. So when one is out of balance, the others are affected. We discovered this connection by looking inward. We can begin by learning to put ourselves back into our lives. We know we are a good teacher, compassionate counselor, or driven coach when we are open to learning and growing our mindset. Body includes sleep, nutrition, movement, downtime from the screen or our phones. All are key to help our bodies recover so we're prepared for each school or game day. Spirit, what is it that makes you happy? What grounds you? What renews your energy? Whatever it is, prioritize it and do it regularly. Mind your mind, mind your words, and mind your company. Our children and their families will be favorably responsive when we present with a healthy mind-body-spirit connection. E, emotional well-being. So as an educator myself, I wish somebody told me when I started 20 years ago that being emotionally well would help me to do my job better, because this job will affect my emotional well-being. So after I started building a more compassionate orientation to myself and everyone around me, I was able to develop better lesson plans and deliver them with fidelity and skill. So now in 2022, as a leader in the district where I work and as your board president, I am realizing it is essential that I practice the 5-minute rule. I let go of the unpleasant experiences we sometimes face in this work that we do, whether triggered by a student, parent, or community member. By letting go, I inform my pathology to believe in the very people who may cause stress because my responsibility impacts their lives in meaningful ways. My responsibility isn't necessarily to demand change or agreement, but it is my duty to nourish trust and understanding. Maybe our role is more about being good sowers of the seed. That's a lot though, and it takes a toll on our psyche. Self-care and self-check-ins are critical because we can't be effective in a classroom or sit on this board if our emotional capacity is diminished by stress, worry, and sadness. Our responsibility. So one of my mentors told me that the best educators have an internal locus of control versus an external one. So in other words, the best educators operate in a manner whereby they believe their behavior determines events in their lives. And those external locus folks look to point the finger. We must look to build connections and let students know we believe in him, her, or them, because at the end of the day, students above all will not only remember what you taught or said to them, but they will mostly remember that you believed in them, and that is our responsibility. Especially as a board member, I learned that it is best that I am part of a system that is resolution focused. It is a best practice not to judge students, their parents, leaders, or our colleagues. Likewise, it is also best to fearlessly walk into one of the biggest rooms in any district, the room for improvement. And finally, O for outstanding. Every single person in this cafeteria is outstanding in some way, and I really believe that. Don't forget that whatever your role, it is your calling. Some of you always wanted to be a parent or a teacher or a bus driver or a school principal ever since you can remember. And some of you may just desire to serve mankind. But no matter how you got here, you're here. You have been called to be outstanding, so you've been called to be a hero. I believe that public education is one of the greatest social justice issues of our lifetime, and we are all on the front line. So being outstanding requires sacrifice and vulnerability, but the idea of being mediocre is just unacceptable. So if this is the right role for you, it will bring out your hero. So I dare you to speak outstandingly to everyone you talk to. And I double dare you to do that. Affirmations of greatness from you means the world to any student, any parent, and especially for those who may not hear from anybody else but you. So, for the 22-23 school year, let's show up every day like the heroes we are and grow the lives of our amazing students and their families. Are you ready to be a hero? So that is what I shared with the staffing, and I think it's appropriate for all of us. So now, we're at the point of our agenda where there are 4 meeting minutes requiring approval. They are the August 23rd executive session and business meeting, and the August 31st executive session and special meeting. So I motion that we move to approve these 4 meeting minutes at this time. So move, I get a second? Second. Great, all in favor? Any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, So the board acknowledges receipt of the published correspondence at this time as well. And we now move to the second public comment. So members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board regarding the action agenda only for up to a maximum of 3 minutes during the period of this meeting. All comments or questions must be directed to the board president. The board president may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command within the school district before coming to the board for a response, and all responses will be provided or may be provided at the end of this session. So Board Secretary Shower, would you begin with the published timer? So the one public comment specific to action items is now open.
We'll set it up for next time.
Yeah. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. I'm sorry I came in late and didn't get a chance to talk earlier. So I'm presenting here representing a group of Chinese parents, and they are concerned. And I'm here to read what we have discussed with the Chinese parents.
Ma'am, does your comment at this time, what action agenda item is to which is it aligned? Is that this is the
Not
public
really.
comment for this time?
No, not really. But I want Chinese people's voice to be heard. That's why I'm here. But I'm sorry I came in really late because my kids volleyball. But if you could allow me to speak for 2 minutes.
You can email it to the board, right?
Oh.
You can email your commentary to the board. We're looking for comments at this time that's specific to the action agenda. That is our format for our formal public meeting. So you please feel free to forward that to the board and we'll respond.
So I'm not sure what's the action agenda.
It's the published agenda.
So it's
Well,
items,
Secretary
yes.
Shallow, would you inform the public when this gets published and how you do it?
Sure. So as board secretary, we put out to the public our action items. Basically, an action item is all the business items that the board will be voting on this evening. So many times from the public, we have questions regarding, for example, our MJDOE safety report, or we have someone from the public who may have a question on the policy. So the second public comment section is reserved for these agenda items only. It's always been the case, we just never really enforced it, so we're enforcing it. So the first public comment is 3 minutes, it can be on any topic you wish. The second public comment is also 3 minutes, but it's reserved for particular business agenda items.
So that's the things you.
And these action agenda items are published at
Friday.
least 48 hours in advance, and there's a Sunshine Law Act that requires we do so, and we adhere to that. Every public school board in the state of New Jersey is required to be compliant with that act.
Typically we issue the public agenda on the Friday before the Tuesday.
Yeah, it's published 1 month,
President's
right?
Festival, just to be clear, there is absolutely no requirement that a board do it 40 minutes before.
Okay.
The requirement for the Sunshine Law is simply
I
to
stand
advertise
corrected.
it. However, we understand that because the public wants to be included and informed on these issues, we do issue that typically on the Friday previous to our board meetings, which happen on Tuesdays.
Then that must be a best practice, because every single public
I mean,
school board that I know
in theory, the
publishes
agenda
it
could be
48
issued
hours
5
in
minutes.
advance.
Yeah, in theory, it could be issued 5 minutes before you walk in. We don't
one that does that in New Jersey. Right.
And part of the rationale for having a separate public comment period in addition to the one at the beginning is so that the public can make comments about the items that the board is about to approve and vote on. And so that we could take those into consideration and have any commentary about that. So that's kind of why there's another comment period.
So I heard you, Dr. Wallace, speak about the curriculum during the agenda. Can I bring a comment on that?
Is that an action agenda item? What number are you referencing? Now we have curriculum instruction is 2.0. Is that specific to those there?
It's specific to the curriculum. I want to come back to the question I asked, which was not answered.
You can send it, you can jot down your question and present it next month, or send an email to us. Is it specific to 2.0 and item 1 2.0, which is C&I?
It's specific to the curriculum. I asked about transparency, and Ms. McLaughlin referred to the July 22nd email that doesn't have
We'll reply back to you.
Either to the curriculum.
Because we have that written down, Mr. Hassan. Thank you so much.
But I do hope you do send the opt-out process to all parents.
Thank you.
Because it was never sent.
Yes, we have that information that you shared earlier. Thank you so much.
I have a question in regards to the policy, item 1.2. I've heard today a little bit more of an elaborative view from Mr. Speck on some of the policies that we're looking at. One of the ones that's of interest to me is emergency virtual and remote instruction programs. I'm not sure what that means. I can tell you that last year our kids were sent home with packets during the time that they were identified as close contact with someone who had COVID. And I don't think we as a school district have a virtual or remote instruction program, so I would be very interested in hearing what that actually is. And also, just one other item in regards to communication, one of the goals that has been shared with us from the superintendent is
Which
to...
action agenda item are you referencing?
Still in regards to policy.
Which policy number, Ms. Birmingham?
Well, I'll stick with the emergency virtual and remote instruction, right? I mean, communication talks about improve all methods of communication to deliver clear and transparent information to the district. I often, and at our town hall, we've heard parents ask specific questions about policies that have been asked in school that you told us to go and research ourselves. So I would ask that from a transparency and communication perspective, maybe perhaps we spend a little bit more time discussing those policies that are being implemented by the Board of Education. And the policy that you referenced, some of the parents were concerned about, is males being able to be in girls' locker room as well as girls' bathroom. And you referenced us to a policy.
Are we still speaking about an action agenda item? No. Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Jernigan. Thank you. Superintendent McLaughlin. Board members Speck. Another one.
Say it. Mark after 206. Just want to get a little more information about the student safety data system report.
Item 1.1.
Yep. Like to find out a little more about it, you guys provided. Is that part of
It was presented earlier.
Okay. Well, let me go into a little bit, I guess, on that, is that there was a real glossary. What actually is included in that? Are we talking about rape, murder, like what's actually going on? Is this just some kid vandalizing something? What are the categories? Very broad and kind of defines any specific thing that's actually going on.
Thank you. That's your only okay. Superintendent McLaughlin will respond to that question for item number 1.1.
the emergency virtual learning plan. The state requires that we updated our plan for this school year. Hopefully, we never have to use it. So we did seek input from parents for the plan. There was an email sent out. We actually have two plans. We have the LEA plan for safe, encouraging in-person instruction, and we have the emergency virtual learning plan that's being board approved tonight. So they'll both be on the current one from last year is on the website. This one will be put on the website once it's board approved. Virtual learning plan.
So just to clarify, this is a state mandated contingency plan?
Yes,
It's
for
not-
emergencies.
Yeah, for emergencies, it would be a declared emergency as before.
Right, we're not in that.
And it's applied district-wide. This is not because, I think in reference to Ms. Jernigan's question about a child who be sent home because of COVID, this is not anything to do with that child receiving virtual instruction. This is for
There is no sending
emergency.
anything
Right,
anymore.
so
Right.
emergency district-wide, what the district.
This is like a declared
Declared
emergency
state
of the state of
emergency.
New Jersey. And now we have to transition from in-person to virtual learning. Every public school district in the state of New Jersey is required to have a policy around that contingency plan and provide specificity as to what that transition will look like. All of those details are to be included in that policy.
May I ask a follow-up question?
No. I'm sorry.
I guess I'm trying to understand what's different. That's what I'm trying to get to.
I would have to have the other one to go and compare. There's not a lot of difference from the one from last year. It would be if we had to go to full remote again.
And we're happy with how we handled it last year?
We weren't full remote last year.
Not last year, but a few years back.
You know what, I think more as an educator, unless as a board member, I don't know of any educator or parent or child that I have encountered that was necessarily happy with remote learning. But the state of emergency required that learning platform to be accessed at that time. Various types of learners responded differently. Some children thrived, utilizing a virtual platform. Some students continue to perform at grade level, and we know because of our multiple types of data collection that a number of students are experiencing learning gaps, as a result. So to answer your question directly, I don't think so, right? But when there's an emergency declared and we're forced to make that transition, we're required to have an emergency plan in place. So now, Superintendent McLaughlin, you want to speak to the gentleman's question around the student safety.
So the student safety report is record from each school for the last year. Any instance of violence, vandalism, substances, weapons, HIVs confirmed, HIVs alleged. Those are the categories. And they're all outlined in the student handbook and the discipline policies. The different definitions for each.
I understand that, but my question is hard data. Like, I understand that we're required, and earlier we got a report on it, but it didn't really mention actual events. I don't need people's names, like what actually happened. Did things happen? Nothing happened, no crimes, no vandalism, no kid pulling a fire alarm?
Right, that is not even on my report that I have right in front of me. It's just we have to report the number of instances.
So this is a state-required report that all public school districts in New Jersey are required to report on. and it's just a collection of numbers. The state does not ask for a description of the event itself. And we're also required to report out on those numbers, right? So the description, this is what the report looks like. So a description of the incident is not included on the report. It's not a requirement. Obviously, internally, we know what the details of those events are, but they're not included here on the report.
So it would be a statistical number against violence, per se, violent acts, or however they define it, correct?
No, it is, yes.
All that's reported, this is what's reported. It's just total number of incidents by school that would fall under any of those categories.
Then how do we find data about what actually happened?
It would be in a confidential student.
Well, we don't report out on the specificity of those incidents because it's confidential. It involves students. So we don't report out on the details of the incident. We're just required by the state to report each incident that falls in a particular category.
So to clarify though, one of the things that's on there was HIV numbers. And so can you summarize the board's involvement in the HIV process? In that we have an agenda item where the board will receive information about HIVs that we will...
Right, every instance of an HIV is reported. The reports go to the board members and they review them during one board meeting and they're approved the findings at the second board meeting.
So those things are reviewed by the board members is one thing. And I heard some comment about
The
the
board
work
members
with...
don't review code of conduct incidents.
No, I understand. I was speaking specifically about
Right, that's
HIV
just
because
one portion of
I understand. And the other comment was that I heard the word rape and things like that. I mean, obviously, if there was anything of a criminal nature, board policy and actions would involve police, prosecutors, things like that. So I just want to make it clear that, you know, if there was something that was...
All of these types of incidents, the local police are contacted, then they determine if any further, criminal investigation is necessary. Thank you for your respect.
But that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. I mean, you're telling me that you have to report things. Understood. I don't need it, on the nightly news, they don't say, hey, somebody got murdered, and they don't say, hey, Joanne Thompson got murdered, and the accuser is so-and-so.
Actually, they do all the nightly news. They do give you all those details.
Work with me a little bit. If you're going somewhere, you're gonna say, hey, I want to know what's going on in this place. Is there violence? Yes, we'd like to think that the police are called. All of these things.
Well, just because
I don't need names.
Sir, just because I happen to have access to that in a capacity that I feel elsewhere, Montgomery is in the bottom, in the bottom 5% in the state of New Jersey for substance and violent infractions that take place in any of its schools. Montgomery Township District is at the bottom 5%. That's factual data that we
Not to, you get a lot of ire here.
Thank
I'm not
you
giving
so
you
much.
ire.
We really
I'm just here to-
appreciate your inquiry. We really appreciate that. So the second public comment is closed at this time. So I motion to move that we approve the action agenda items 1.1 to 1.4. I'm sorry, 1.1 to 4.4. So roll call, please, Board Secretary Shower. Oh, right.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, great, now roll call, thank you.
Ms. Bursch?
Mr.
Carlson?
Reaching out.
Yes.
Ms. Frankel-Herman?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Specht?
Yes, with the exception that I will abstain for number 3.4, which deals with reimbursement to staff or board members, and I will be attending, as several other board members are, the New Jersey School Boards Association Conference in Atlantic City for our professional development, if you will. And so there's, I'm mentioned on that, so I will abstain.
Ms. Spina? Yes. Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Ms. Spencer-Wise?
Yes. So that motion carries. Excellent. So we've reached the conclusion of our Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 public meeting session. We thank all those that participated this evening. On Monday, October 10th, 2022, starting at 5:30 p.m., there will be a Board of Education Town Hall covering full-day kindergarten at Orchard Hill that Superintendent McLaughlin shared earlier. We hope to see many of you there. Please tell your neighbors. Should there be no objections, I move to adjourn this day's public meeting session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or any abstentions? Thank you so much, everyone, and good night.